Hello and welcome to Head Above the Clouds podcast with me, Alice G.
And me, Jade Poltney. We're here to have open and honest conversations about mental illness and hopefully give some advice about how to keep your head above the clouds.
Hello, welcome to Head Above the Clouds podcast. How are you all doing and how are you coping with lockdown 2.0? We hope you are keeping safe and staying sane, but it's okay if you're not. That's why we're here.
For those of you meeting us for the first time, we are two music industry workers and mental health campaigners who raise awareness of and money for mental health charities around the UK. And we are so excited to be starting this podcast where we will be getting to talk to some even more exciting guests about their experience with mental illness.
We also know that the past year hasn't been easy and so many more people have begun to struggle with their mental health because of the pandemic. So we've been busy working away, making some content that hopefully might be able to help.
Alice has recorded some grounding exercises that have been created by mental health specialists to help distract from the panic and anchor yourself in the present. If that sounds up your street, then head over to our profile to find this week's episode.
And if it isn't, then stay tuned for some amazing guests who have been so open and honest with us and you about their struggles and offer some advice on how to overcome and keep your head above the clouds. Should we get started?
Yes, let's. This week we got to sit down with one of my favourite stand-up comedians, Tom Allen. You guys may know him from Live at the Apollo, The Last Leg, Mock the Week, but we got to sit down and speak to him about how reliving his childhood anxiety over lockdown inspired his brand new book, No Shame, which is out today.
Welcome, Tom.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
We're thrilled to have you, and for those out there who are unaware, that we are back recording finally after postponing throughout lockdown and doing things slightly different, weren't we, Jade? I think over lockdown.
Just a tiny bit different.
Just a tad.
Duvets
overhead,
Yeah.
sat in the wardrobe with the clothing,
Oh.
doing a lot of live streams, which is a whole new world.
Oh, yeah.
But it was great, but it's really nice to be back. Not quite in a studio, but recording in a really nice space with all our equipment. It's great, actually.
It's been
Finally.
Getting back on the deck was a bit stressful. Normally,
Slightly.
like the past few months, you've just been sending me audio files already done, and I can be like, yeah, cool, I'll just snip it. Seeing that again was a bit daunting, but we're good to go.
Well, I bought for lockdown a USB Rode mic because
that's a good idea.
Jade took a lot of the stuff back with her. So I thought, we'll buy that. So we're back with the deck, which is slightly more, as you can see from the copious amount of wires.
I should have spent more time. That is what I should have been doing in lockdown. Spending more time actually fixing my skills on the decks and sorting everything out instead of playing Sims and
Didn't we all say that over
rewatching
lockdown?
old films.
It's very difficult, isn't it? You've got to just do what you can do, I think.
I think we all said, I said I was going to hone in. I started learning French again. That was my thing. Yeah, well, I gave up about 4 months. And I realised I had less time than I actually thought I would, which is...
Interesting,
It was weird, actually, for me, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, I think we all said we were gonna
do
hone in on
productive things, yeah.
Yeah.
But you actually did do a productive thing in lockdown.
You did, yeah.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. Are you referring to my book? I wrote a book. I started writing sort of fairly early on in the lockdown, and it was perfect timing because I've always wanted to write it down. It's got a lot of stories from being an outsider as a teenager and feeling a bit odd growing up, and it gave me the space to actually focus on that, and I loved it, and I loved the experience of spending time in my head. There wasn't that FOMO or that kind of it was just sort of a meditative state. That's how I found it, and I'm not very good at meditation, and I'm not very good at being just with my thoughts a lot of the time, but somehow having the focus of the book was very cathartic.
I found it was quite a mixed time. I mean, I found a lot of people that I know who struggle with mental health actually managed to cope relatively okay. And I said to my parents, I don't know whether that's because we have... a lot of us have been in therapy or CBT, so we've got a lot of skills that we've brought, to the table. But I do know a lot of friends who may have not have experienced mental health in such a way before, who really, really struggled. So it must have been a whole new experience, kind of just be spending time on your own and focusing in on something, really.
Well, I think yes. I think you're right that perhaps we have more skills now, particularly if you've had the chance to kind of research or look into it, or had experience of, like you say, therapy or any kind of treatment. I suppose it is a good. There's a lot more information out there. There would be even 10 years ago, I dare say.
Oh, definitely.
And a much more of an active conversation around it, which I think is very positive. And I think I found myself saying it and going, I'm having a bit of a struggle this week. Last week I was fine, and then this week I'm not so fine, or even like day to day or hour to hour. But actually, just when you sort of check in with yourself, making sure, being okay with how you feel, or just accepting how you feel, and sort of going, actually, it's okay to not feel great at this moment.
Oh, definitely. And I think, obviously, with the book, you were saying, obviously, you've written about your childhood and things that maybe weren't so much comfortable at the time. Did that kind of bring up any memories that perhaps you'd like thought, do you know what, I'm going to put that away for a while? Did it bring up any, difficult situations that you hadn't thought about in a while, or? That's
a good question.
I
think, I think with a book, like, you've got to write something that you feel is personal, and you've got to, I think, well, for me, it was really important to write something that was a bit vulnerable, so that other people who felt the same to kind of have a feeling of connection. And my thing is always I think most entertainment is just to make people feel less alone. Which sounds kind of a bit maudlin, doesn't it? But I suppose I am a bit maudlin. And I suppose I just went, like, actually, I'll write about the things that it's called No Shame, the book, and I thought I'll write about the times when I felt a bit like, oh God, why did I do that? Oh, that's stupid of me. And particularly in terms of, like, before I'd come out and dealing with that stuff. There were memories there, but I think actually it was good to express them on the page, and also kind of realise that actually I have managed to grow from them. At the time, it didn't feel like I had, but I think with the fullness of time, I'm 37 now, I think I maybe had moved on a bit, and that's nice. And it's only since I've sort of come to the final stages of the book that I've gone, actually, yeah, I did contain that on those pages, and I'm proud of that. I was trying to do sort of 6,000 words a week.
I think you're always surprised, actually, what it does bring up. I don't think things are straightforward, especially when it's your own story.
I mean, that's
it's a lot of facing up to things.
Yeah, very
good
much.
And bad.
Yeah, I definitely found that. And you sort of thinking back about, like, first loves is one chapter, and it felt so profound, and so kind of harrowing. And now I write about it, and I go, oh, it was okay, like, and any kind of any kind of, like, resentment I had about the time, just about the time day, I felt dissipated, really, and I went, oh no, that was a nice experience, but I never thought I'd be able to get to that. And I don't know if I think obviously I had moved to that place, but it was only in writing it on the page that I could realise it, and I suppose that's the benefit of expressing something, isn't it?
Oh, I think that's the wonderful thing about time, actually. I agree. I think in the moment, and I think it's actually, I agree, it's like a really blissful thing to look back and go, not that it's not important to you anymore, but you've moved forward with your life, things have changed, and you can just kind of look at it and reevaluate and then park it. And I think it's a great place to be in. I don't know about you.
Yeah, even on, like, not so, like, of the heavy stuff, when you just look back and go, why on earth did I care so much about that minuscule little thing?
Yeah, oh my goodness, yeah.
And, like, you drive yourself crazy over the tiniest thing, and now you're just like, I don't even remember that.
I don't know if that's
anymore.
being a teenager, though, as well. Like, because I think when you're a teenager, you really, like, the smallest things.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah, it really hone in on things, and things are the end of the world.
It is laughing at yourself a lot of the time for me.
For me, it's been healthy. Yeah.
I mean, you did the Comedy Central. It was in 2016.
Oh yeah.
You did they did a campaign for mental health, and you were you the first? You were one of the first to perform, weren't you? And you talked about anxiety.
I was one of the first, I think. Yeah, I was sort of I think it was the first time they'd done that campaign.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and it felt like a really positive thing to be a part of. And I think being a stand-up, I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but I think it's a cliche for a reason. Well, it is in my case of kind of the tears of a clown, or laughter. I think does tread a fine line between sadness and happiness, and I think it's a lot of the time, for me anyway, comedy has been a way of kind of, again, trying to reach out to people and go, hey, have you experienced this? And then they laugh because they go, yes, I feel that too. And there's a reassurance in that you feel, again, that you're not alone in any experience, and a sort of reassurance that actually you know, you'll be okay, you know, there's a way through, or there's just another way of looking at things. And I think that's, for me, that's when comedy is at its most powerful. And I think, so it made sense that it was about stand-up. And of course, you know, like before we go on stage, often stand-ups go through quite a whole plethora of emotions, and it's often quite, you know, it does bring out nerves, and the learning process was to learn to be happy on stage. And a few things help with that. Sort of reprogramming the way I thought of it. Somebody said to me, nerves are just the flip side of excitement. I think that's a nice way of realigning it, if you can use that. But also I'm aware that in the wider world, that all too often, you know, if you say to somebody, oh, I'm feeling nervous, the advice you'll get back is to go, oh, don't be nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of it like that.
Thanks, it's fixed.
Yeah,
Everything's
thanks.
fine now.
You're right, actually. Oh, gosh, good for you.
That's made everything okay.
That's exactly. Oh, don't have a cold. Okay, oh, I haven't got one now. So there's that kind of thing of like, for me, I think there was the feeling of being nervous, but then it was double the sort of shame of feeling nerves.
Yeah.
It was kind of compacted the experience.
Yeah. But I think they also tell you that it's growing up. You grew up also performing. I've grown up performing. You're told that it shouldn't be, as a performer, this is your job. This is what you're good at. You should not be nervous. That's what we were told.
Honest as well, like the times I felt most content performing have been the times when, even if I've not said it out loud, I feel like I could say it out. I feel comfortable enough that I could say it out loud. I feel a bit nervous today. Anybody else? You know, and actually, you know, I've never actually done that, but when you do new material, I will say that to like small audiences. Like, I'm doing new material, it might be terrible, but that's okay. And actually, if you, I think people relax if you own it.
Yeah.
So that's it, isn't it? Because they go, oh, well, he's
Yeah.
about it. I've certainly been aware of like self-sabotage and the self-sabotage voice in my head sometimes. I've sort of, particularly in my 20s, I felt it a lot of kind of that voice going like, oh, this isn't going to go right, oh, you've messed this up. And actually, sometimes being aware of, like you say, I don't know if it's a psychodynamic, again, I'm bounding, just throwing terms around. But yeah, I mean, are they rooted in any truth? I don't know. But that thing of kind of, if you can acknowledge it, like you say, then you can work on it. And so you can go, you know, I think for me, being aware of like, there's a voice in my head that's saying you're not doing very well. Well, maybe I can respond to that voice. Or maybe I can...
Oh, and 20s are all rough. I mean, we're going through it at the moment, and apparently your 40s is supposed to be the peak of your life. So I'm holding out for that. I'm going to tell you, like, I'm holding out for like being 42 and living life and just everything being slightly more amazing, maybe. But I think your 20s are hard because you're like trying to. I think it's to do with identity, isn't it? You're just trying to find out who the hell are you.
I found my 20s really difficult, and just for exactly those sorts of reasons, and also again the shame compounds that sense of kind of going, is it okay to ask for advice? Because it seems like we have to be perfect from the beginning. Yeah. And actually, like you say, like actually the vulnerabilities are the much more endearing things.
Yeah, connect you to people more, and you're like, it's okay, like we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
None of us know what we're doing, and that's fine, cool.
So true, yeah.
I think it comes from like our parents' generation as well, of like being 22 and already having a house and getting married and having kids, and then they sort of project that onto you, and you're kind of like, whoa, no, I don't know what I'm doing, like I can't look after myself, never mind other people.
For sure.
I felt more sure when I was in my teens. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't feel anyone, if we're talking on a scale of 0 to 100 percentage wise, you know, I was probably at 30%, but I swear to God, at 19 I was like, had this idea of where I would be. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe when you're young, you have this idea of where you're going to be in your 20s and your 30s, and then you get there and you're like, oh, it's slightly different. Not always in a bad way, but it's
well, again,
it's
I suppose school doesn't really teach us to go. It never teaches us to be okay to fail, and I think to grow and to learn, you have to be able to learn from failure. You have to accept your failures and kind of embrace them. And I think that school is all about succeed, and it's about like, look, don't have feelings. You've got to do GCSE maths next week.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I sort of have that feeling of kind of. Did you find that?
Oh, my school, they put a lot of pressure on the kids that were conditioned almost to like achieve or whatever. There was no space for failure.
I went to Catholic school,
so
as long as we were good,
what was that?
as long as we were good, godly children, everything was fine.
Oh, right. Wow.
We all went to mass every Friday. We did our prayers, and everyone was like, okay, and everyone's good, yeah. No one's got any problems.
And I guess it's probably not any individual school or certainly any individual teacher's fault, because I think it's, you know, it's a wider. It has to be embraced by the wider.
It's a huge generic issue.
Yeah, because I suppose the school, anybody at the school is just going, well, we need to get these young people through their exams.
Well, they've got pressure on them, haven't they? They have to meet targets.
It's all that.
Yeah,
and as well,
it's
like
a big cycle.
Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it, to break that and to have space and time, I suppose. I don't know, I've never worked in school, but I think it must be stressful at times for all sides.
So obviously with the COVID, I mean, you must have been affected in some ways because it's the industry is taking a hard hit.
Yeah, I think live comedy has had a difficult time because, you know, obviously venues haven't been able to operate.
Yeah.
And they are starting to do outdoor gigs and stuff like that, which is exciting and really positive, and I'm really glad that people are keen to make that happen. I think in terms of television it's been really difficult, but again things are starting to happen now, and I think that's great that there's been so much goodwill and so much ingenuity really to make it happen. And I think that I think, you know, not to come back to this philosophy of mine, but I think it's entertainment and comedy and television in particular are so good at connecting with people and making them feel connected that actually in these times it's been all the more profound. I think, I mean, I suppose that's self-aggrandizing, but I do think, I think television, radio, all those mediums are important, very, very important, and I think people, I hope that people value them, and so I'm very glad that we've been able to start making things again. It was really stressful just to not be doing things.
Yeah, because did you do a few Zoom or online gigs?
I did a few online gigs.
Yeah.
I've done a few of those, and also I did my podcast with Susie Ruffle. We do it together. We had a lovely time doing that, and we always have a lovely time doing it, and we did some live shows that were which were streamed, and that was really nice and really great to kind of interact with the listeners and stuff.
Well, that's what I was thinking, with the people in there interacting with it and watching it, because you hear laughs and people were laughing.
Yes, and we have a front row, which is great. It feels really nice, and it was nice. It was just lovely to be doing something, and hopefully people, they seem to get on board with it and like it. And so that was good, and I was a guest on some talk show type things, like Saturday Kitchen and The One Show and things like that, and it's never quite the same as being in the studio, but still it felt nice to be doing things and to be part of, so I'm very grateful for that. And I think that I don't know if a lot of people found it, I mean, and a lot of people found it very stressful as well, but for me it was lovely to spend time with them, my mum and dad, and to just hang out in a non-pressured way. I wasn't sort of stressed out with work or anything. Yeah. But at the same time, I was reading quite a lot about codependency, which is something that I think is such an interesting topic, and about barriers and stuff, and just going, not in a dramatic way, but going I'm just going to not. I used to feel anxious that I was leaving my parents' television on their own, or I was leaving them. I was I can't leave them. I should be there for them, and I had to go, hey, Tom, it's your life. You want to have dinner later, you can have dinner later. And just going I'm going to watch television in my room.
That's so interesting, because when I went home, I kind of had the opposite. I'm very based on routine. Okay. And the idea of me losing routine is a big thing. Right. So when I went home, I was on the phone to my mum, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come stay with you, because my flatmate is frontliner. So I was like, I'm going to come stay with you. But I was like, there's a few conditions. I was like, I need to stick to my routine. Mm-hmm. And my mum, bless her, she's very involved, so she's always popping up, and I was like, you need to just respect that if I'm working, I'm working, and, and they were great about it, but I'm not gonna lie, I did think to myself, I give it 4 weeks before they really get on my nerves.
And was it okay?
No, it was no problem at all. I was there for 3.5 months, they didn't annoy me once.
Fabulous.
And I don't know if it's because I've grown up from being a teenager, because I haven't been back home for that length of time since then. So I'm thinking maybe I'm just less hormonal and more like an adult now. It was nice to have my washing done for once. Oh my god, I've missed that.
Yeah.
I mean, you live with your parents at the moment, don't you?
Yeah, I moved back from London to do my masters, so moved back in with mum and dad, and so it was pretty normal. It was weird having my brother back from uni. It was the weirder thing. We sort of regressed back into 10 and 8 again. Oh my god, I hate you. Oh my god, mum, he's bugging me. My mum was like, I've got 2 20-year-olds in the house, and it's I'm living with children again. I was like, sorry, mum.
I was living for your mum's content.
My mum,
she's so
my mum discovered flavoured gin during lockdown.
Oh, good.
She got very into it.
Yeah.
And we've had a laugh. I never thought I would be able to just sit down and get drunk with my mum on like an afternoon, like in the garden.
That could be fun.
And
it was the highlight of my week.
My mum just posted like calling my friends, going, "Hey babe, what are you up to?" And I was like, "Mum, this is my friend. Oh my god, mum!"
She's my friend.
She's great. I love her.
Oh, that's good. But those sort of like, because I think it was such an extreme, you know, and I'm still in it to an extent, but an extreme time that actually it does bring out those kind of, you know, you're just honest with each other, I suppose.
I felt so, honestly, I felt so grateful to have that time, because I don't think I would have ever had that time solidly. When am I ever going to have 3 months, you know, so solidly back home with my parents? Now I've moved out and all of that, like, and working and all that. I feel so grateful that I was able to have that time with them, and for us to, I mean, we're a close-knit family anyway, we're very close, but I think it just, there's been a lot of hardships and you know, as you grow up, things happen and you look after one another, and there's a lot of pressure from things. So for me to like go home and just enjoy having dinner with them or going for a walk, like I think it was like the smallest things that I think in such an awful time as well, it was like a real juxtaposition. Is that even the right word to use? I'm sure it is, but I think that was really a great position to be in, really.
And like a lot of your material sometimes comes from living with your parents.
Yeah.
Have we got like 2 new tours now after spending so much time in isolation?
Oh, there should be, shouldn't there? Well, potentially, I suppose. Yeah, I guess that's. I didn't think of it like that. I should have. Been monetizing.
Making notes.
But I mean, I probably have to start writing about other things at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, they move back home at various points, and it made sense to do so. And I think that I hope that it provided some kind of something relatable.
Oh, definitely.
You know, and like it's that thing, isn't it, that often we love our family and they love us back, but somehow, despite that, we just wind each other up, or just kind of like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Or just, you know, just like sofas that my parents have ordered for the front room don't fit the room. You can't walk into the room. So people come around, they stand in the door, the sort of end room, because they feel like these sofas, like there's no way in, and that doesn't seem to bother them, and I'm like, how?
It's that dysfunction, isn't it? That family dysfunction, which is prime. I think it's prime time comedy.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it is.
I mean, if I can curtail my kind of like, why have you built a fully out cupboard next to a plug socket so you can't pull it out?
That's great.
I love the bit you did about learning to drive. Watching that put me and my dad off driving together.
Really?
My dad was like, "This is why I am not letting you get in my car, because we will just have these moments and just like." I learned to drive. I did 2 lessons and I got stuck behind a cyclist and was so determined that I was going to knock this person off their bike. I had like a panic attack in the car.
No.
And
you were so determined that you weren't going to.
Yeah, I was like.
As in, like you were like, I'm.
She was aiming for him.
I was like in my head, I could see myself accidentally clip them. So then I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm just not going to drive. And then I moved to London and I was like, yeah, there's no point in learning how to drive when I'm here. Now I'm back home. Like, I regret this decision now because it's 45 minutes for the next train and there's no buses. But my dad's like, we are not getting in the car together.
Do you know, my dad taught me to drive, but like, if I have kids, I ain't teaching them to drive. I'm not getting a car with them.
I thought I'd be much calmer with my mum and much more angry with my dad. Dad and I had that argument, and that was based, the one I talk about in stand-up, like after I'd said, can we go to Sainsbury's car park and practice reversing into car parking spaces?
Oh,
and so I just need you to be there, 'cause, you know, you have to do it with someone in the car.
Yeah.
I was like, don't tell me what to do, because I need to see if I'm doing it or not. Dad wouldn't let me just be, and he was just like, no, do it again, no, Tom, down a bit. And I was like, leave me to do it, like, why can't you accept?
Parking, and it was an empty park, it was B&Q, there was no cars around. I was like, I'm gonna nail this. And I got into the parking spot and was like, what, equal sides on both, I've nailed this. Oh my god, if I got within 10 feet of a bollard, it was like, oh my god, stop the car now.
Oh.
It's all the way over there, like I'm fine, like I'm not gonna hit the car.
Do you know what I think that is as well, is when a passenger doesn't trust you and they're the driver.
It makes you more panicky.
And also they're not used to being on that side, so the bollard does seem really close.
Yeah.
But you're like, it's fine.
All the way over there, like I'm totally fine.
They're like, because they're used to being in the driving seat.
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway.
All my friends know I love it. I love finding it really.
Drive.
It's because I'm focusing on something. That's why I'm completely in it.
Yeah, I would say the same. And I think though what I find very stressful is in the countryside is when you turn onto a lane and it's 60 mile an hour. Like, and it's single track, and I'm like, what?
I know.
Why is this 60 miles an hour? I can't, like, it's like some sort of like hedge all around me. And these like tight hairpin bends. It's fine, a car might be coming towards you and have no way to get out of its way. But just go at the speed limit, that's fine. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are annoyed, like, why is somebody going on like 23 miles an hour?
I think you get used to it. I think the thing about the countryside is you know your roads and you know where my parents live. It's like you know where that bend is and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, even then, like, would I go? You know, when they have the 60 come up, you're like, would I go 60 down? I don't even know. As a local, I don't even know. But you get some crazy people who just like
on tractors,
I know.
Yeah.
Massive cars.
Yeah.
I used to drive an Igo, for God's sake. I was like a quarter of the road, and I'd still be like in the bush.
Yeah.
Obviously, with everything. I mean, I don't want to use the word normal because I don't think things are necessarily going fully back to normal. But what's your first plan? What would you like to do? Which could be even a holiday. I mean, anything. What would you like to do?
Oh, I would love to go out. I would love to go out and go for. Well, you can go out for dinner, can't you? But like, go out and go dancing and not think about it. I'd love that. And saying hello to people, giving them a hug.
That'd be nice.
Basically, go to a party. That's what I'd like.
Yeah.
I've really missed that. I missed that during the lockdown more and more. Like just that. Even to go to like a crappy party. You know those kind of corporate sort of parties or something that was a bit too organised. I was like, I would love to go to one of those.
I would go to like the most cringy rundown student nightclub I could find and be like, yes, get me in Pop World.
Yeah.
2 for 1 BKs, I don't even care anymore. Like, I will take anything now.
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean,
somewhere that's going to play Shania Twain and I'll be fine.
We go desperately to Rowan's to go bowling because it's also got that kind of cheese vibe of like Shania Twain being played in the background.
And then like just you guys like Shania Twain quite a lot.
Oh, I mean, who doesn't like Shania Twain?
Yeah.
I mean,
just Parks and Rec. I feel like there's that.
I don't know if you've ever been to Rowan's in Finsbury Park. It's a bowling alley.
Opposite the
karaoke.
station upstairs.
Yeah.
I think I might have been.
Is it upstairs? There's some upstairs and back, but
it's
incredible. It's like I'll go to thing. It was like a weekly thing before lockdown. It's great for like getting things out, you know.
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic, I think, bowling.
People love bowling.
It's good. I mean, who doesn't love picking up a heavy ball and throwing it as some sort of therapy? Safely at some pit, not at people.
Very expensive polished floor.
Yeah, exactly. So that'd be great.
Live events as well. Like obviously our background is music, but we put on like gigs a lot, so it's been weird not having to do that. But then I thought a few weeks ago it sort of hit me. I was like, there's all these like petitions and protests and campaigns for like music and theatre, but poor comedies just sat there like no one seems to be like getting really angry about the lack of like support for like the comedy scene.
I think the thing about comedy is that it is always kind of a sort of it's always kind of come out of nothing really in a way. It's built itself out of nothing, which is its strength, in that it's sort of people talking in the back of bars and that evolved into clubs and then theatres. I think that's fair to say, and so you know comics are pretty good at finding ways to do it, but I think for me it's always been a thing long before the lockdown that like comedians aren't always kind of regarded as any kind of in the same bracket as like other performers who are regarded as artists, but comics are like, oh well, yeah, and it's kind of I always think like, well, comics tend to like they do it all on their own.
How are they hoping it's going to come back in? Is there any kind of forward thinking on it?
Different ways of doing it, and I think, I mean, like I say, I think there is a huge will to make it work. I know there's a huge amount of goodwill and desperation to make it work one way or another, from venues and performers and indeed audiences. So that's very, very heartening, and I think in that sense it won't go away. And I think fundamentally people always want those live experiences, don't they? So I think there'll always be a hunger for it one way or another, and I hope that it's brought back sooner rather than later for everybody, really. I think laughing together with people is a lovely thing to do, so I hope that's possible.
It's the book's out 12th of November. It's called No Shame.
Yes.
Where can people buy it?
They can buy it online, or they can buy it at their local bookshop. There are some signed copies available. If you check out my social media, details are there. Tom Allen Comedy on Twitter and Tom Indeed at Instagram.
And just in time for Christmas, so stuff it in stockings.
12th of November, yes, just in time. Lots of time to wrap it up as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Tom for joining us. It's at Tom Indeed if you guys want to go check him out on the socials. If you want to buy his book, the link will be in the description. Honestly, it's so brilliant. You won't regret it. The perfect Christmas gift for this year. But most importantly, thank you guys for listening to our very first podcast. If you want to stay up to date with our episodes, you can follow us at HATC Media on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Don't forget to head over to our profile to listen to Alice's grounding exercise for the week. And we look forward to seeing you next week for another episode with another brilliant guest. Bye!